What are the aspirations? What do you see as Congress's role in this conversation of diversity, equity, inclusion in media?
We've done a lot, but we haven't done a lot.
Yeah.
We need to do more.
There were individuals that imposed their view of who I was. That had nothing to do with that vision of who they thought Black women were.
There's not an industry in this country that is where they need to be on inclusivity, parity, representation, access, and opportunity.
There was a sensitivity to the Black experience, but there wasn't an authenticity to the Black experience. So,
hello, everybody. My name is Breon Wells, and welcome to the Policy Plug Live at CBC. Let's make a little bit of noise in that. Yeah, that's right. We are here in the nation's capital. As you know, this, as you've been riding with us, this new podcast, this new culture that we're building. We believe that this is the space where we humanize people who influence policy and bring the policy to the people. And I could think of no better space than to associate ourselves with the cultural festival, the policy festival that is Congressional Black Caucus Week. And I'm delighted. As you know, we believe that policy touches every aspect of life. And today I'm extremely excited because I get to merge two of my passions. I'm an avid TV watcher, movie watcher. Consumption of media is my thing. But then on top of that, as a policy expert, as one who has my own consulting firm, we get to have a conversation on the impact of how these two merge, but more specifically, as we're here at CBC, how it merges for Black media. In fact, that's the name of the title of this episode, Black Media Matters. And so I'm excited because we have some special guests with us. First and foremost, definitely never least, she's one of the flyest, and I mean flyest members of Congress that hails all the way from New York, none other than Congresswoman Yvette Clarke. Y'all, thank good up, man. She is new to the policy plug, but she has been a steadfast partner for the Daniel Initiative, even when we did our BIPOC Tech Summit. And we talked about algorithmic bias and things like that. It's always been good and a pleasure. And then we have the maestro himself. And as you can see, he dresses as fly, but I promise you the substance matches all of what's on him. And so we have none other than the John Gibson, who is the Vice President of External Affairs, Diversity, Multicultural Affairs at the Motion Picture Association. Let's again line it up. So welcome welcome both of you to the Policy Plug. This is the space where we try to make sure that everyone understands not just that policy matters, but that they have a role to play in it. And in fact, we relish on humanizing these policy things so that people realize with your tattoos or anything, you can roll up to the policy table, you have a seat at the table, and that it matters. But one of the things we start with is humanizing our guests so that they can see. And Congresswoman, I'm gonna start with you. We are celebrating 50 years of hip hop. And I'm sure John has the same testimony. You never leave a dance floor untouched. Like, sometimes you will ask me, shut it down. And I asked you before who your favorite hip hop artist was, but since we're 50 years in, I'm gonna ask you, who's your favorite female hip hop artist?
wow. So let me first of all thank you for having me on the podcast today, Breon. It's wonderful to be here with you, and it's great to be here with John as well. My favorite female hip hop artist. So, it's different decades involved. I can start with MC Lyte and Latifah. Then I can move to Missy Elliott. Of course, TLC. No shade, no shade. I definitely like Cardi B.
Okay.
Definitely like Cardi.
She gonna give you an experience.
And Megan Thee Stallion, and I can do some Megan. No shade. But then it just, I think females have really stepped up. I mean, there's so many right now that are just brilliant.
Yeah.
I'm excited about the fact that they're taking no shorts, and they're learning from the performance of the past.
Yeah.
How to really manage their business in a way in which that they can mitigate the exploitive factors in the business. And I'm excited and really, really happy about that.
And it's a movie.
I did want to just rewind a little bit because, this week is being hosted by the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation.
That's right.
Which is an organization that was established by the Congressional Black Caucus. It is our policy wing.
Yeah.
And every year, research and policy work. And every year, for over 50 years now, we have been bringing Black folk together from across the nation. We have a documented history of the various concerns that are impacting Black communities across the nation. You can look at each era over the 50 years and see how far we've come and see how much more needs to be done. We can also sort of take the temperature of the various Congresses that have been held over time as well. And I tell people, people like, well, what is it like to be in Congress? Well, at the end of the day, it is a change of chemistry with each session, so that based on who populates the House of Representatives will determine to a large extent the direction and the flow of business. And I've seen a steady decline in the flow of business since I've been in Congress, and I'm in my 17th year now.
Absolutely, and you bring up a good point. The CBC has 58 members now.
Yes,
so you are 58 members strong. Let's clap it up for that. I mean, that means that 58 people who are able to represent not only their constituents generally, but Black imperatives and Black policy matters. But then you held from a very significant seat for the Black community, the Shirley Chisholm. And if you all don't know about Shirley Chisholm, do yourself a favor and look her up. Before there was Montgomery and the chair that now costs however many thousands of dollars. Shirley Chisholm was one that said, pull up y'all a chair at this table. And so what is it like to kind of sit in? I know you're always aware of that. What is it like to sit in that seat?
So a slight correction, because I don't want my brother, the leader of the Democrat.
Hakeem Jeffries.
That's right, Hakeem Jeffries, to feel any kind of way. We both represent the district that Shirley Chisholm once represented. Over many decades, there have been a redrawing, a redistricting, and the populations that cover what was then the 12th district of New York has now been bifurcated, if you will, between the 8th and the 9th district of New York. And it is a great honor. It is a great honor to represent the constituency, the streets, the people, and just the vibe that Shirley Chisholm represented. I don't know that she would necessarily recognize Brooklyn, the Brooklyn that she knew, because Brooklyn has gone through an evolution just in terms of demographics, in terms of housing, a whole host of things. But that core constituency, the Black community, remained strong, both in my district and Congressman Hakeem Jeffries' district. And, you're absolutely right. Shirley Chisholm famously said, if they don't give you a seat at the table, bring your own folding chair. And, she didn't take any shorts. And I think that is a legacy that I've inherited. Not taking any shorts where the people are concerned, and also just recognizing that, she fought. She was known as the Fighting Shirley Chisholm. So that you can't be complacent in a time like this, when so many imperatives, as you've stated, are impacting the people that I represent in the 9th District of New York, and my extension, Black folk across this country. So I'm the Fighting Yvette Clarke. And I'm looking forward to some victories because, our people fought, they gained ground, and now we got to hold the line and press forward in progress for our people. And I always believe that, when you see communities of African descent make progress, that is, that's something that benefits everyone.
Yes.
Everyone. It lifts the nation, given, the history of the African descendant in the United States.
That's right. That's right. John, I was going to ask you the hip hop question, but I'm asking the movie. Okay, give me that, man.
I was talking about Congresswoman's district.
Oh,
This is it. It's my favorite hip hop artist, who is a woman,
gotcha.
the Queen Bee Lil Kim,
All right, now.
Absolutely. That's my shout out.
because she shook everything up.
I had her Lil Kim
As a kid.
Foxy also came
Oh yeah,
about
I say, there you have it.
Fozzie Brown, y'all.
Yeah.
Y'all don't know Foxy, y'all like
Hell, why not?
So, now, John, being from the Motion Picture Association, knowing that you're creative in your own right, like these things that you're going, if you had to pick a movie that in some ways resonated with your life, what would that movie be?
I actually have two here. Before I answer that, I got to give just props to the Congresswoman because
Yep.
she has been such a great partner with being the founder and co-chair of the Multicultural Media Caucus, which is Congress's arm that works with our industry to help and guide us. It is that policy arm that says, I see what y'all are doing, I see what y'all are doing, and I appreciate it. But also says, I don't like that's happening. Here's a hit. Because again, it's you need that. And I remember the first time when we engaged, this was so important to the Congresswoman, that they're busy. They don't get away to get from the Hill. But she and her chief of staff at the time, my sister Charlotte Stanford,
Come on, Scott.
headed down to meet with our then CEO at the time, former Senator Chris Dodd, to have this meeting to say, I have invested in this. I would have linked arms with this, and the Congresswoman has been with us ever since.
Yeah.
And she is a true proponent for the arts, or more so also the creatives, the children of the African diaspora. So,
Yep.
yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, two movies. One came out several years ago that won the Oscar. I had the cast at UPA, Moonlight. It's that because when the show, and if you look at particularly Mahershala Ali's character that we had seen, I'm a DC native. Growing up, there are good people who don't always make the best decisions. And there were people when I was growing up who didn't make the best decisions, were hanging out. But if I was glad to get to school, they would give their own way, get your butt to school.
Yeah.
Oh, I know report cards came out today. Let me see what those grades look like. You heard your mother calling you
Right.
so behind in the house.
Right.
They wanted more for us than they could read for themselves, and Moonlight showed that for me. And then a movie came out today by a Canadian director, Clement Burdock, Brother. My colleague David is in the audience. I'm just going to tell you this movie shook me. It's a love story about two brothers, because one, it shows about the Black experience in Canada, which have been in any inner city in DC.
Okay.
Or maybe in the US. And it was just this the immigrant story, this single mom and her two sons, and the older brother preparing his younger brothers for what his brother was, he was inclusive, he wasn't actually introvert, and he just didn't understand his place in the world, but Big Brother was there. And he was so beautiful, and the way it ended, it was just like, nothing has shook me to my core. I haven't talked to my big brother in several years, his family.
Right.
I reached out to him, because those are the two movies, Independent Bells, Moonlight and Brother.
Gotcha. And I think it's well deserved. I'm about to highlight not just you, Congresswoman, but your staff over the years.
Yes.
Because sometimes you could tell, I'm a former congressional aide. In fact, I call myself recovered Hill staff. And you all gave me a whole boot camp experience. But you can often tell the quality of a member by how their staff, once they leave and go.
Yeah.
I think of LaDavia Durain, who's at Amazon now doing major things and has stuck with that diversity, equity, and inclusion strain. I think of Charlene Stanberry, was at the National Association of Broadcasters. And so you've always been true to this core of diversity in media. And it's interesting to see how your staff, well, currently, even Shelley Davis, I think of Shelley, like there's a history that sits in your office. And so I definitely want to shout you out, but also shout out the staff.
Yeah.
Because it shows the fruit that you've obviously been helping to provide space and give them the tools that they needed as well to be able to flourish. So definitely wanted to give that shout out. So on the policy side, talk to me, John, first on why diversity matters, because I think, sometimes we so use this term diversity, equity, inclusion, DEIA, that sometimes we get typecast where we're just hiring Black folks just to be hiring Black folks, and we miss maybe the importance of the overall picture that we're moving towards.
It's the importance of the lived experience. It's just a simple tool when you're looking at whether it be TV, you will stream something, when you go to the movies for that theatrical audience engagement. People just want to see themselves. And when they see themselves, and when you show the aspirational, the inspirational, or when you show the hard truths, and that's sometimes pretty, and sometimes are reflective, and sometimes they are gritty, but it's a 360 view of yourself is so important. And those who are writing these stories come to add these lived experiences. We came to 2023, for someone who's never been to Brooklyn, write a story about a Brooklyn neighborhood.
Right.
And then when you have the conversation, say, well, no, that's not my lived experience. Well, yeah, it is. It has to be this 360 view of it. And so it's important, but you have to do the work, because diversity, DE&I has been thrown around so often. You can just plan a party for your community and you're a diversity expert.
Yeah.
It is the intersectional work. It is feeling for a community. Like I will use an example. Blue Beetle just came out recently. The first Latino American.
That's right. That's right.
Our box office numbers show, our reports show that Black and brown folks over-index in TV viewership, streaming, consumption, and go into the box office. So you have communities that see everybody.
Right.
Support everybody. And when it's our time to be the lead, people always don't feel that they can see themselves through us. That's a problem. And that is something why you have to have members like the Congresswoman pushing the policy part.
Yeah.
And you have to have committed companies like our member companies.
Yeah.
Leaders, I give credit to our CEO, Charles Rifkin, and the leadership that constantly keeps pushing the agenda. Like, we've done a lot, but we haven't done about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
We need to do more.
Absolutely. Congresswoman, you introduced this Congress to Take the Lead initiative. And it speaks towards diversifying Hollywood, diversifying media. If my memory serves correctly, it would actually designate this very month that we're in, September, as space where we acknowledge that. Two-part question. One, what made you, when you were originally approached about this concept of the multicultural media caucus, what spoke to you to literally make you go to see Senator Chris Dodd and say let's have this conversation, I need to be one of the founders of this work, but then let's tie that then to this Take the Lead initiative where we have moved now? What are the aspirations? What do you see as Congress's role in this conversation of diversity, equity, inclusion in media?
So, I think what is important is that there's authenticity in everything we do. And I'm a boom Xer. I was born the last 2 months of the baby boom. And so, I grew up in the sort of TV culture of a period of time right after the civil rights movement where there was a sensitivity to the Black experience, but there wasn't an authenticity to the Black experience. So, growing up, you would view things and you could tell that the writers had not lived the experience that they were trying to portray.
Yeah.
And that has continued, quite frankly, for quite some time. I can tell you that I have watched motion pictures that are depicting people of African descent from the diaspora. And the individuals clearly don't come from that cultural experience. And they stand out like sore thumbs, particularly if you come from that experience.
Right.
And so wanting to see oneself and wanting to widen that aperture so that we're not seen as a monolith, that we are not typecast into a lived experience that is not genuine,
right.
that is not a part of who we are, but is a concept in someone else's mind of who we are. And that leads to big mistakes.
Yeah.
You know, because if you haven't lived it, it's hard to take ownership of it. So the passion that goes into our award-winning, presentations, that comes from the authenticity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That comes from the authenticity. And the viewers, they know deep down inside, they can feel that. And so that's when people are moved to like shatter box office records because they get the word
right.
that, yeah, that was the real deal.
Yeah.
And so I knew that once I got to the House of Representatives, I wanted to do some work in space. And, we talked about the fact that there are 58 members of the CBC, but we didn't talk about the diversity of CBC members. There are CBC members that don't represent CBC districts.
Yeah.
So their experiences are totally different. We got folks from the farms, we got folks from, the inner city, we got folks from the suburbs. We have folks that represent the suburbs, the urban areas, and the rural areas all in one district. And they bring a unique perspective to the work that we do in Congress. Likewise, when you look at the fact that Black folks have life experiences that are so unique and represent varied experiences.
Absolutely.
You can't typecast. You can't put us all in a box and say, oh yeah, that's you. And I found that even in the work that I do, that there were individuals that imposed their view of who I was, the Black woman, on me. That had nothing to do with that vision of who they thought Black women were.
That's right.
My life experience didn't lead me down those roads that they thought I must have gone down in order to become a member of Congress.
That's right.
And so I have to tell my story because if I don't, I have someone who's imposing, their idea of, the prototype of a Black woman in Congress.
That's right. Congresswoman, and I'm mindful, we're about to get real DC real quick here. I'm mindful that we have votes that you have to take. And so what I'm going to do as we continue this conversation, I'm gonna give a few shout outs to some of the things you have going on, and then so that you can get to do the job that you were elected to do. But I wanna thank you for showing up, not just today, but on a regular basis to have these conversations, to make space. You all, if you're here for CBC Week, make sure that what you do is find out how you can tune into the Caribbean Day Party. It is filling space to be every year. I already got my tickets. It's good food, it's a good vibe. But then you also have some panel discussions on tech. On the tech front, as you sit on the Energy and Commerce Committee and on Homeland Security, which congratulations on getting on Homeland Security. That is a very big deal. But let's clap it up for Congresswoman Yvette Clarke. Now, John, I'm not even gonna lie to you. We about to have a business conversation. I'm gonna give you your flowers here because the last time we saw each other was at Essence Fest.
Yes.
And they had a film festival, which I want to say was the second year. So it's a really relatively new thing.
Yes.
But in addition to the main big reason why the Motion Picture Association was there, I saw you and a couple of other industry folks take the time to have some impactful conversations on the business side. I want to give you your flowers because everybody doesn't do that. Everybody does not do that. But even as much as you appreciate Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, I've seen you make space. And it's so critical where you are, why you're where you are, and at this space. So kind of unpack for us here, you know, when you joined the Motion Picture Association, like what was your why? What's your why that kind of drove you?
So yeah, that was 2011. There was no D&I program. There were some great leaders who, by the nature of the industry, they were just focused on other things. And again, my why is, you know, growing up in Washington, D.C. at a time when D.C. was 85% Black.
Yep, chocolate city.
He was, and growing up, I overeat dancing, watching TV, going to the movies. They were inspirational, aspirational, they were escapism with teams to top. But when there were portrayals of my city, I didn't see the diversity of it. I didn't see us. And I certainly didn't see, as the Congresswoman talked about, the diversity of the Black American experience. And so going doing civil rights at USCA, diversity at Holland and I, and then getting to the EPA, I felt that there had to be folks at our studios, our 6-member studios, that looked like me, from our communities, that were working on this issue. I just felt they had to be. And what I found out, that was true. They were doing the work, but again, when you are operating at a deficit, even as you make incremental gains, you don't want to raise your hand and say, well, look what I'm doing. Look what I'm doing. Because there's not an industry in this country that is where they need to be on inclusivity, parity, representation, access, and opportunity. But they were making gains, and if you don't talk about it, you get the impression you don't do anything about it.
Yeah.
And so part of what we were doing was simultaneously, while I'm building up the EPA's D&I program, I also became almost like their publicity agent where I was speaking about the good things that they were doing. Now I got to tell you this, but sometimes this was, you know, we launched this program 3 years before Oscars So White, sorry.
Yeah.
So we were not following anything. It was a natural progression of how a trade association can help his industry on a very sensitive issue. But then we had a CEO at the time, you know, as we mentioned, former Senator Clarke, who had been fighting for all Americans for almost 4 decades.
Yep.
So he was important. So he empowered me even when there were members of the senior staff that had no idea what I was doing. I don't think this was just a Black guy doing diversity stuff. We didn't know my background.
Right.
So we're doing that, and, you know, they get 5 years before Me Too time's up. And then, you know, they work to Black Film Festival, which I'm a proud board member. That is our first partner. Today, 2023, we have 54 partners that span the U.S. and down Canada. But they're leading multicultural identity festivals, all of the major civil rights groups. Even as we were moving in the space, gotta get kind of to the studios. At no point did any of them, and I was wading into some comfortable waters, did any of them say he needs to pull back.
And real quick, when you say civil rights space, to just unpack for those that don't need to talk about NAACP.
National Action Network, Rainbow Push Coalition, the Japanese American Citizens League, the National Hispanic Media Coalition, the League of United Latin American Citizens, Voto Latino, so all of the groups that are civic and policy minded fighting for the communities, those are part of our coalition.
Yeah.
Separate from those that are adjacent to our industry.
Yeah.
And so as we're building that, and, you know, I mean, there were thousands of trade associations. A lot of us try to focus on D&I. I throw the gauntlet down. Show me one that can match our program. I mean, we've been doing it a long time, and it's comprehensive, it's inclusive, and we're getting results done. We're supporting our students, and we're supporting, I think one of the most exciting things of what I do is I get to engage with independent creators, because our film festivals that we're sponsored, they're not the Sundance, so they're not the Trifecta, so they're not the Tellurides, they're not the Billboards, they're not the big ones. Okay. They are the ones focused solely on our film. They're the Newark International, the New York Latino, Georgia Latino. I mentioned ABFF. There are those, they're the Miami Film Festival, they're the Urban Film Festival. Those are the ones that, Ocean Rock community, you either take your savings, you crowdfunding, or you ask your family to help you out, or your mortgage in your homes to create your project, your passion project, that you take it to market. Those are the books that we're supporting.
Gotcha. Now, I've known this for a little bit, but it was refreshed to me in Essence Fest. Of course, when we think of Hollywood, we think automatically only of Los Angeles, right? And we think about, but it was an interesting conversation we had about the movie industry, the business, but just how much, even if you take Georgia and the production that happens in Georgia.
Millions of dollars cotton in Georgia. I mean, there are production hubs outside of Los Angeles, and even if there is a film done in Louisiana, they aren't sending 2,000 people from California to work on that set. It is small business. Our industry employs so many small businesses. It is the local caterer, the local carpenter, the local electricians, the local medical staff. I mean, our industry has over 2.5 million people every day to get up. So people are thinking the industry, they're thinking actors, directors, writers, producers. No, I mean, if you want to work in our industry, our industry supports every discipline. And that's why I got plugged another program that I am the Interstate Industry College Outreach Program, which oversees HBCUs in LA. So several years ago, President Obama sent his White House initiative of HBCUs to LA. And they had a meeting with all of these power players, these influencers. 75 people want to brought in LA to talk about how do we help these 107 schools send their students to Hollywood. This brilliant sister, Stacy Milder, created HBCUs in LA. And so now in his 5th year of the summer internship program, every summer, this summer, we send 100 students to Los Angeles from these schools. They're there, child lodging is taken care of at a stipend. They're not only working at the major studios, they're working at kind of the mid-majors. They're working at publicity arms, they're working at marketing firms. This year we launched 30 agencies in New York, so 30 were in New York work. And then if you look at the graduates, one good man, he went to work for he went to work for OWN. He came on the digital team. They had been working on something for 2 years. They just could not figure it out. They did, but he dealt with it for 6 weeks and figured it out. He's now working for Capitol Records, and every time I look at CCR and I see him. And I'm like, imagine that. So now it is a network of HBCU students that have graduated young. They're in LA, and this community.
Yeah.
And see, that's what, you talk about my why, that's part of my why. It's doing that. It's providing these pathways. It's supporting these corporate, supporting these visionaries, these creators. There's a lot of our partners, they've been pushing diversity in the industry long before 2020.
Yeah.
Long before Oscar So White. And so now that the industry is in the space when everybody wants to talk about it, I believe my goal in VP's role is to make sure that first and foremost, never to, that we don't forget them, because there are a lot of the groups.
So you're reaching back and saying, they had said this way before, it became a trend.
Let's make sure not only they're at the road, not only are they at the table, but they're able to be heard.
Got it.
See, you can be in a room.
That's right.
Listening. You can be at the table still not saying anything, but you are providing space for Brian
That's right.
to talk. And then that you're talking, are we listening? Are we taking notes? And are we following up?
Got it.
They're all established.
Yeah. I mean, again, that's why you're so necessary and critical now. As you've been in this space, what do you see as the work that remains to be done from a policy space? Like, what can Congress or even state legislatures do to help foster better diversity, equity, inclusion? And here's why I ask that, because I think sometimes, this is my opinion, in the social justice space, I think we don't always make the best arguments in the right order.
Yeah.
So we do the Care Bear stare, it's the right thing to do, and why don't you understand it's the right thing to do? But the fact of the matter is diversity, equity, and inclusion is economically prosperous.
It is.
And when we make sure that those that have systemically been marginalized and franchised, it works its way on up and everybody wins. And so where do you see the hot spots, the touch points that Congress or state legislatures need to kind of partner with the work that's being done?
I think this is a good pivot to talk about the role of state legislatures and at the local policymakers. Because, what affects your life on the day-to-day is at the state level. And what some states are doing, like California and New York, Illinois to a degree is, these production tax credits they give our river companies, these tax breaks, if you will.
What are those so that we can understand?
So, look, if you have let's say Georgia, if you have a $100 million bill, and Georgia gives you $40 million in tax breaks on that, that's $60 million that's just coming out of, so you're saving $40 million. So it's like, I want to go there. Let's make it financially attractive for me to build it. And Georgia, for right now, they don't have a cap. Where some states do, like New York, I think it's $775 million now. Governor Hochul did this year, increased it by $300 million. California, at least between $300 to $400 million. I'm not the state expert, but these are the host of the numbers. But it's making you, so from a business, if I'm a studio, if I'm a production company, I link to build these states. But what the legislators are now saying, particularly the Black, Hispanic, and Asian caucuses, yes, you should do this, but you also have to do diversity plans. You have to show us your commitment to diversify your sets. So below the line, these are your dips, these are not your producers, not your writers, not your directors, not your cinematographers, not your actors and directors. Those other positions, what do they look like? Because your sets should look like your communities and what you build. And that is having a great effect, both in New York and California. Again, Illinois has been doing it for rock. Like there's some shows, like for instance, if you're building in the south side of Chicago, well, there are some shows that are actually taking people from the community and hire them not only for internships, but also hire them for security. Well, I'm not investing. And now that's Chicago as an example, because we know there's some gang activity, which is prevalent throughout the U.S. But if I'm now working on this set, and says this set is the best in the biz.
Yeah.
I have a pride in it. And I might tell some people who might not be doing what they need to be doing, don't mess with these areas because I've invested. But also these other people are seeing that you are engaging. Oftentimes, sometimes companies come and do what you do elite.
Yeah.
And what these incentives or what state legislators are doing are saying, what are you giving it? How are you bringing books to the community? How are you training? How are you preparing them? And that's a wonderful thing. And it's, so all people could get everything's a copycat there. If they're successful there,
yeah,
well, we want it. Well, and also New Jersey also has some diversity requirements. So, and it's working.
Let me ask you this, because I often, when we're talking about voting rights, we're talking about maybe reproductive rights, dies to say it. There's always this tension about should Congress step in and win, because yes, states could be doing good things, but here's the reverse of that. I often, remind people we had a whole civil war over states' rights to own Black people. And so, therefore there's sometimes instances where either states' rights and their ability to decide either could be potentially harmful or is not enough in and of itself. What role do you see for Congress? Because I see your point that the current framework incentivizes states to not just, out of the economic model, make sure that they're also fitting these diversity benchmarks in meaningful ways, hopefully. But what would it mean, or what role should then Congress at the federal level play? Well,
I would say, I referenced earlier, there are a number of caucuses that focus on so many issues, but I would say if the Multicultural Media Caucus is that arm of the Congress that is working with our industry to empower that caucus to do more work. Because again, even with members of Congress, there are competing interests.
Yep.
And where some believe that, oh my God, we need to do more to help the industry diversify, there is another segment that doesn't want to get a word the first thing whatsoever. So empowering the existing caucus that represents, we have co-chairs from the Hispanic, the Asian, and the Black caucus, empower them to do more. And I believe there's another caucus by Congressman Johnson outside of Atlanta.
Yeah.
That's doing similar work. So empowering the caucuses that are in place. So you don't need to recreate the wheel.
Okay.
It's just supporting what's already in place.
Got it. I'm gonna ask you kind of crystal ball question. I'll put you on the spot. Where do you predict his overall industry will be in the next 15 years?
It looks like 15 years.
That's what you were stressing.
I believe, let me just say this, even as there's so many streaming platforms that it's just been particularly since 2020. This is emerges because there are a lot of multicultural streaming platforms.
Right.
I know about them is because, again, like reference Bill Buster's earlier, a lot of times people from our communities can create these masterpieces. They go to these multicultural film festivals and they almost know to die. But the multicultural streamers are creating an opportunity for these creators of other their projects in front of the scene. So I love that. So as streaming makes it easy to watch in your phone, be your host, I still believe that nothing beats the theatrical experience. Nothing beats that communal shared experience of going to see a film. And something resonates with you, whether you laugh, whether you shine, whether you cry. There's somebody 5 rows to your left, and that's that same experience. Nothing beats that. So I think we're like, theaters are dying. I'm like, no, what they're doing, they're evolved. They're making it easy for you. So in addition to, bringing you your drinks and your feed, I think that'll you might get, your pedicure, manicure, and it might be that complete luxury experience. But theaters are not going anywhere.
Yeah.
They're just going to evolve. So this industry is getting stronger and stronger because I always say, as it's a global industry, multiculturalism is globalism. We are connected. So, now, look at one of our members, Netflix. They just shared about Nollywood, African projects that we're seeing. And we see our brothers and sisters always living rich and lavish in these metropolitan cities. So yes, we all don't live in the brush.
Right.
Right. So you're feeling it. You're just seeing it and you're being connected. So, no, is the industry going anywhere? Is it dying? No, it's just going to get bigger and better.
Okay.
But like all things, it will evolve.
Yeah. We came across a statistic that, and you and I discussed it, or not a statistic as much as it is a concept. The biggest cultural export of the United States is the film,
TV,
the TV, and streaming.
Traveling out the country, I'm seeing our stuff. It's, a lot of people make that like our politics or our, being sheriff of the world, if you will. But they love this vision of what America is that is showcased through our media project. It's like you being in Washington when we talk about this, because I'm seeing somebody walking down to the new era fitted Jordans, Levi's, or purposely like that is our culture. Since I was Black Americans fully knew how we really impact everything. Because I think others know that if we fully embrace it, we will be absolutely unstoppable. But I don't think world culture moves without the touch of the Black American magic that we had.
Right.
But yeah, you can see, they love, they go crazy. Our movie stars, sometimes our movie stars are bigger outside of the country than they are here.
So what's the power then of narrative?
That's why
And we should have folks here understand, because it sounds like then our narrative is being exported as well. What's the tie?
And that's why you want to make sure that there's authentic storytelling. We're constantly talking about this. Like, there is lived experience. So if you tell it the story of somebody growing up in parts of DC, that the person writing it, that's why they reference book like, Terrell McClady, who wrote it, and Barry Jenkins, who was the director, they grew up in the same neighborhood, went to the same schools, didn't know each other at the time, and both moms passed of these, but another still is living with them. Sharing the experience, so when they were brought together, that magic happened.
Right.
Right, so again, it's so important regardless of what you are portraying or what community you're showcasing. You have to have those experiences dynamics.
Absolutely. As we're winding down this time, and you've been real gracious, and I've been trying some of these questions that I know in your mind, and you're like, I wish you wouldn't ask that.
I don't have to say, well, John from DC would say yeah. Eddie K, but the PA exec would say yes.
You know, I go switch.
Yeah, then.
So often on the policy plug, you know, and the reason I developed the policy plug was to solve for this quandary we have that a lot of people dislike policy because they dislike politics.
Okay.
And they're connected, but they're not synonymous.
Yes.
And so we try to unpack, no matter where someone comes from, how the thing that's hurting them, and I said this in I think an earlier episode, is not like John the racist is only hurting you.
Yeah.
Often when we're talking about systemic, institutionalized, or structural racism, or even if we talk about, which we don't enough of, systemic, institutionalized, and structural progress, or blessings, right? Those things are found in the nexus of policy. But a lot of people don't see themselves there. So kind of speak to the one who's interested in the film industry, but doesn't connect how, as we've seen through this pandemic, policy can touch and shut down or aid in everything. Like, why does policy matter to you? And why should it matter no matter what the industry, but since in this conversation in the media industry, why should we be tuning into policy discussions?
Well, I mean, because I mean, like even your day to day, like for instance, like we are, you know, one of the issues we work on when the kids are like Safety Act. There was language in it that talked about, regulation of video streaming services, and that was put in because they were lumping, you know, our heavily curated streaming platforms, rated platforms that user-generated content platforms like your social media. I'm gonna throw no names up at you. Y'all know the big social media platforms that anybody can display user-generated content up there. It can go towards bullying, sexualization, and all sorts of things. But all of the content that goes on any of our member studio streaming platforms is rated. It goes through approval processes. It's just it's heavily monitored. There are, again, if you look at our streaming, multicultural streaming platforms that are just creating opportunities for creators, their launches, their creators are not focused on what Washington is doing. They're not focused on that there is language in the COSA that might be detrimental to their business because what they want to do is to fight. So that's part of we have something big for those in a few days. Can't have you here, but it wasn't
You mean the exclusive?
actually it's so exclusive, but just know that I've been looking out for our community in regards to this.
Okay.
When we tell folks or when we enlighten them about what's happening that can impact the business aha moment, like, oh my goodness, I wouldn't know this. Thank you. Now, how can I be more policy focused? The policy is important for your day to day. And I think if 2020, like so often we were so focused, at least our community, on national elections. But then now there's this energy behind your sheriff, your prosecutors, your judges. Like we were thinking about at the state and local level, there's an energy that I hadn't seen before because we understand, as I said earlier, your state and local affects your day to day more.
Right.
I live in Prince George's County, Maryland. PG County has the highest property taxes in the state. That's got to do with the governor.
Yeah.
It has everything to do with that majority black county council. Now there's issues with them, but this ain't the platform to and because I'm like the majority black county council, and we know overappraisals in the negative overwhelmingly affects people of color. Why have we passed a law that is majority black county council to deal with false appraisals?
So you're saying that bad thing is bad thing?
It ain't mad. I don't like to be called anyway. This is what you can do at the county level.
Right.
I can't blame the governor. I can't blame the senators. So I think we are to understand the importance of it. And that's why we have to have people such as yourself creating platforms like the Policy Plug, where it's said in a way where it's easily digestible. It's not over your head. Sometimes you have to just
Right.
It's not to just tell people what it is. And that's why politicians who are very plain spoken and they just deliver it to the people, good or bad, people resonate with them.
Yeah, we won't name, but yeah, I one example.
In fact, people are speaking to me, people just want to hear.
That's right.
They don't want to hear the wash jargon. They just want to, just tell me what it is.
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So,
Thank you for letting me go to the entire.
oh, no, listen, I was about to offer, we have a behind the scenes, kind of other take things so that you can, it's therapeutic.
It really is.
That's one of the reasons I resonated with podcast, because I was like, you know what, people are actually listening and I get to go off.
Exactly. That part, yeah.
So, let me say this, as make this final pitch then.
Yes.
For those on why they're needed in this industry, because you made a very valid yet interesting point that I hadn't thought of, that it's not just the actors, it's not just the writers, it's not just the producers, but the everyday businessmen can actually get in on the economic revitalization that is happening, because you said the theaters ain't going nowhere.
Yeah.
We're still going to be heavy consumers of this media type of industry. So how can others...
Yes, we will have studios. I mean, there are something our studios there are umbrellas and there are brands underneath that are also heavyweights that are run by people of color. But I think when you look at the majors, there will be more people of color on it and the executive, the C-suite, because you have to have diversity at the C-suite to then greenlight the projects and then select the director and others and hold them accountable. So there will be more of that.
Okay. And so we know it, at least it suggests that in 2045, this country becomes a majority minority country.
Yes.
What practical steps do folks need to be taking now to get in on that piece of pie?
Well, I think, the thing is that I think we learned in 2020, that's my fault of that. These devices, if you are a storyteller, there is nothing in today's time that is stopping you from telling your story. You can put that baby in 4K, video, download iMovie to edit. There is nothing. So, and what you do, you then fill up your audience, because there's a certain segment within our studios that are looking for the next best thing. They're looking at social media platforms to see what your developers are looking like, and they're coming to you with development deals to be like, okay, we'll develop him so you're ready for the next level. You just have to now do the work. Don't let anybody. So if you get a no, keep pressing to that nose again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for being on this show. Can we clap it up? Thank you. So this is a Policy Club fam. We had a dynamic conversation both with Congresswoman Yvette Clarke and with John Gibson of the Motion Picture Association. And one of the things, this title was this concept of Black media mattering. And I don't think anyone questions that whether Black media matters. But I think that there's room for us to be as strategic and forward-thinking as possible to make sure we capitalize on the gains that could be made. Because this is how we both individually grow, but then hopefully, when we're talking about racial equity, gender equity, all of the things, we actually move that larger needle. So I'm gonna challenge you. I'm gonna challenge you to, one, see the movie industry in a way that you have not before. That you don't have to be the actor only or the film, the writer, whatever. One of these days we're gonna have a whole conversation on intellectual property, but we'll unpack that on how you can own your things. But outside of that, there's a big pot where business owners, carpenters, some of these others can get in these spaces, and you don't have to move all the way to Los Angeles, California to be able to get in on that. So we here at the Policy Club always try to stretch you to think about your success in the broadest ways. Think about the open doors, the capacity that is there for you, because it's about time that we shifted the narrative.
Absolutely.
And I would say that that's one of the most important parts of this conversation of Hollywood, because you can do all the good you want to do, but if you don't own the narrative, someone else is telling your story for you. So with that, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Policy Club. This is Breon Wells, and this is the Policy Club, the space where we humanize the people who influence policy and bring the policy to the people.